Welcome all my dear students to Sudharma's physics classroom. Today we are going to start with the second chapter of class 9, that is laws of motion. In the first chapter we have already discussed about what is motion, equations of motion, and how to represent different types of motion in the form of graph, and how to analyze a graph and solve the questions, right? So here in the laws of motion chapter we are mainly dealing with the force. Okay, so the concept of force and Newton's three laws of motion, which gives us a clear idea about force. So there are three laws of motion. I'm just giving you a brief idea about the whole chapter. We will be learning that in detail in a step-by-step manner. So Newton's first law of motion gives us the definition of force, and second law of motion gives us the equation for force, and third law of motion gives you the effect of force, or what is the result of a force acting on an object. Okay, it talks about action reaction pairs. Okay, so let's start learning about the laws of motion in detail. So before entering into the laws of motion, let's learn what is a force and what are the effect of force. So here you can see the picture. The boy is pushing a trolley. The drawer is pulled and the hockey stick hits the ball forward. So what are the things these people are doing on these objects? The boy exerts a force on this trolley and the trolley is moving. So we can see the word push. Here the drawer is pulled, right? So we can say that a push or a pull, it can be called as a force. So this is the definition we learned from small classes. Force is a push or a pull, right? So now we have to think, when you apply a push or a pull, what happens on that object, what happens to that object. So let's see the example. See, this examples looks very simple. So the boy is exerting a force on the trolley, and the trolley was initially at rest. It starts moving. The drawer, right? The drawer just starts moving in one direction when we are pulling it. The hockey stick hits the ball forward. So when initially the ball was stationary, when the hockey stick was hit on the ball, then the ball starts moving. So we can understand that a stationary object can be moved by applying a force. A stationary object, stationary to moving. So this is one effect of force. Another thing is, if the object is already moving, we can change the direction of motion, right? Change the direction of motion by applying the force. Another thing is, we can change the shape of an object. Change shape of an object. How do we change the shape of an object? By applying a force. Let's consider the example of making chapati at house. So when you prepare the chapati dough, we are just applying force on that chapati dough, right? Then if you apply a force from both the directions, you can see that chapati dough just gets squeezed, right? Otherwise, if you are rolling the chapatis, initially it is in the form of a ball or in the form of a sphere. Then we just start rolling the chapati. We are applying a force on this object, so the shape of that object is changing. We just make it into circular disc, right? Another example shown here is a spring. When you stretch or compress the string, the shape of the string will be changing. So a spring expands on application of force. A spherical rubber ball becomes oblong as we apply force on it. So we can understand that we can change the shape of an object by applying a force. So let's see once again what are the effect of forces. Force can be defined as a push or a pull acting on an object. See, later on in the chapter, we are going to define force in a very, very clear way by Newton's first law of motion. Okay, so by applying a force, we can move a stationary object. A stationary object can be changed into a moving object. We can, if already an object is moving, we can change the direction of motion. We can change the direction of motion. We can stop a moving object, right? That is another effect of force. We can stop a moving object. So these are the effects of forces. Now, to make motion possible, is there any condition required? Let's analyze this. So here we have to deal with balanced and unbalanced forces. Let's see some examples and come to a conclusion of what is balanced and what is unbalanced force. Here two boys are pushing this table. Force of 15 Newton is exerted, applied on this table. Right? Both the boys are applying a force of 15 Newton. On the other side, these two boys are applying a force of 15 Newton in opposite directions. So what happens in this case? Here there is an effect of total force of 50 plus 50, that is equal to 100 Newton acting in this direction. It is, see, this is the direction of application of the force on the table, so the object starts moving in that direction. In the second case, 50 Newton is applied in this direction and another 50 Newton is applied in the opposite direction. So what happens? It becomes 50 plus minus 50, that is equal to 0 Newton. Okay, so in the second case, the forces gets cancelled each other. But in the first case, they are getting added up because both of them are happening applied on the same direction, right? So here it is an unbalanced force. Why it is an unbalanced force? There is no other force going to balance this 100 Newton. But here 50 Newton applied on this side is balanced by the other 50 Newton on the other side. Another example here, when equal force is applied in arm wrestling, they both cannot move their arms to any other direction, right? Both are equally applying the force on each other. So this is again an example of balanced force. Okay, so only an unbalanced force can move an object. You can see the two cases of balanced forces here, right? So in both the cases, the objects will not move. But in the case of an unbalanced force here, that is where we had 100 Newtons, the object starts moving in the direction of the force. So another example, let me just tell you. If I am applying a force of 15 Newton in this direction and another 25 Newton in this direction. So what will be the resultant force? Total force or effective force? You see different words in your textbook. So net force, effective force, total force. If you see any of these words, that is a total force. What is the effect? What is the result of applying these two forces on that object? So this is equal to 50 Newton plus minus 25 Newton. So what happens here? We'll get 50 Newton. We'll be getting 25 Newton in this direction because maximum force, more force is acting in this direction. So the object starts moving towards right side. So this is how we calculate balanced, how we understand the balanced and unbalanced forces. Now let's enter into the laws of motion. So before again learning what are the laws of motion, we're going to learn the first law of motion today, and the second law and third law of motion I'll be explaining in the next session. Okay, because here before framing the law, we need to understand another concept, that is inertia. So first let's see what is the definition of inertia. I'll show you a lot of examples where inertia is applied. Okay, so inertia is the inability of a body to change its state of rest or uniform motion along a straight line by itself. Inertia is the inability of a body to change its state of rest or uniform motion along a straight line by itself. So inertia is classified into two: inertia of rest or inertia of motion. Inertia of rest means it is the tendency of a body to remain in its state of rest or its inability to change its state of rest by itself. So what do you mean by these statements? Definitely I know it's not that clear in your mind when you look at these definitions. Now let's look at some examples and come back to these definitions. Then it will be more clear for you. So here let's see the example of this carom board. We have the coins piled up one over the other. We're going to just strike only the bottommost coin. So when you strike only the bottommost coin, you can see that only that coin moves and other coins just comes down. right? Only the carom coin at the bottom of the pile is removed when a fast moving carom coin or striker hits it. Why only one coin moves? Let's come to the answer after some time. Here you can see there is a tumbler and a coin, and a cardboard sheet is kept over the tumbler, and on that we have kept the coin. So here this person is just striking this cardboard sheet, right? So when he strikes the cardboard sheet moves and the coin comes down. Why? Another case, the car, right? The person is driving the car and he hits the wall. So what happens if he is not wearing the seat belt? He just flies off from the car. This is the main reason for all the accidents. That is why we are saying we should always wear seat belts while driving, right? So why he is moving forward? That's my question. Why he is moving forward? Another example, on the truck there was an object, right? Once the truck starts moving, the object falls down, right? Why? So in all these cases, we can see that, say for the example of the carom coin, all the coins are in the state of rest. We are applying a force on only one of the coins, that is the bottommost coin. When you apply the force on the bottommost coin, it starts moving. But all the other coins, which was initially in the state of rest, it wants to be in the state of rest. It doesn't want to move, right? But there is nothing to support it, so all of them falls down. The same case for the coin. The coin and the cardboard sheet, all of them are in the same state of rest initially, but once we apply a force only on the cardboard sheet moves, but the coin wants to be in the state of rest. But again, in this case also there is nothing to support it, so it falls down. What about the case of the car? The person along with the car, he was in the state of motion. So once suddenly the car stops, his body is in the state of motion. Okay, his body wants to be in the state of motion. So what happens? He falls down. He just moves. Right? Car hits and car stops. Suddenly it comes to rest because on the car there is a force applied by this wall. But he moves because his body is already in the state of motion. Same way we can explain the object falling down from the truck. Object and the truck was initially in the state of rest. Object suddenly the truck moves. See, that is why we have to tie this object on the truck. You might have seen, right? When they do the transportation, they tie it very neatly. Otherwise, these objects will fall down. So this picture number 1, 2, and 3, we can say that these are the examples for inertia of rest, because the objects were initially in the state of rest and that want to be in the state of rest, but when one of the objects moves, it just falls down. So the fourth picture here, that shows the inertia of motion. A very user-friendly example is every day, all of us travel in bus, right? So once, say the bus is stopped in the bus stop and we all enter into the bus. And say, for example, we are standing in the bus. Then suddenly the bus starts. What happens then? When the bus suddenly moves, right, we just move backward. We try to move backward because we are in the state of rest initially. So we want to be in the state of rest. Our body wants to be in the state of rest, but the bus started moving. So our body tries to change, to resist that motion happening. So what happens? We just move backward. Similarly, if a running bus suddenly stops, suddenly applies a brake, we all will move forward. So I know many of you will be just memorizing those instances when, say, if you travel in a public transport or if you travel in a school bus, many times we experience this, right? So that is because of inertia. I know nowadays you are not able to travel, otherwise you could have related that the next day itself, right? If you learn this and next day when it happens, it just comes to your mind immediately. So when you travel, so our body is in the state of motion and suddenly when the brakes are applied, then our body resists that change, right? Suddenly it doesn't want to stop, so it just moves forward. Another example is, in our places, we see that people just jump out of the bus before it stops. Even in local trains, you can see that people just comes out of the train before the train stops in the station. Right? I have seen it many times. But all these times, what these people does is they just run along with the train. They just run along with the bus, because suddenly if they jump out of the bus or the train, they will fall down and their head may hit the ground. So if they run along with the bus, their body is in the state of motion, right? Suddenly, if they jump, they fall down. If they run along with the bus, it's like just trying to be in that state of motion. Knowing or unknowingly, they do that. Otherwise, it's going to create an accident there. Okay. So now let's go back to our definition of inertia. So, inertia is the inability of a body to change its state of rest or uniform motion along a straight line by itself. It tries to resist the change. Inertia of rest means it is the tendency of a body to remain in its state of rest or inability to change its state of rest by itself. Only if an external force acts on the object, the state of rest changes. Same way we can define inertia of motion also. It is the tendency of a body to remain in its state of motion. Okay, that is called as inertia of motion. So you have seen many examples now. I showed you many examples. Now it's your turn to find out some other real life examples for inertia of rest and inertia of motion, and put those interesting examples in the comment box. Now we are going to learn the most important, Newton's first law of motion. So Newton's first law of motion, or Galileo's law of inertia. Okay, Galileo is the person who has initially found out that if a body is if it is moving, if there is no external force applied on the object continues to move. Okay, so every object continues in its state of rest or uniform motion along a straight line unless an unbalanced external force acts on it. This is Newton's first law of motion. Every body continues in its state of rest or uniform motion. See, it can be either state of rest or uniform motion along a straight line unless an unbalanced external force acts on it. Unbalanced and external force acting on it, that is important. An object remains in state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled to change that state by applied force. So these are the different ways of explaining Newton's first law of motion. So it simply states that if an object is moving, only if an external force acts on the object can stop, right? An object remains in the state of rest until and unless if you apply an external unbalanced force on it. So let's see what does this picture signifies here. You see a ball is rolling down an inclined plane. So it just comes down and climbs the other plane, right? So we know that it just moves up, and because of friction and all the other forces acting here, it may move only up to this distance, right? But as per Galileo's observations, if there is no external force acting on this object, it just continues to move. But here there is a slope. So what happens? It just comes down and again climbs up this direction. And this process continues until someone stops it. Here you can see the slope of the inclined plane is different. So if this is the plane, the object just climbs up to this. If the slope is more, it can travel more distance. Here, see here, this we are just decreasing the slope of this inclined plane, and here there is no slope, right? It's just horizontal. So in an ideal case, this ball just moves infinitely, because if there is no external force, practical case, definitely we know that there is frictional force, there is gravitational force, right? That means there is some external force acting on the object and it stops after some time. So Newton's first law of motion states that a body remains in the state of rest or uniform motion unless an external unbalanced force acts on the object. What do you mean by unbalanced force? Let me give you a very simple example. External unbalanced force is very important. Okay, unbalanced external force, because say we are traveling in the car and the car suddenly stops. Okay, so maybe something happened to the car, and what we do at that point of time, we try to push the car, right? So sometimes the engine starts if someone push it. So think whether we push the car sitting inside the car or going outside the car. Just we push it from outside, right? So what happens if you push the car from inside? When we push it from inside, there is no motion going to take place for the car because the engine is already not working, right? So we want to try whether it works or not by pushing the car. So if you push it within the car, we are also the part of the system. When we apply a force on the seats, it's an internal force, it's not external force. Understand that point? But at the same time, if you go outside and push the car, we are becoming an external agent, right? We are not part of that car now. So we are applying an external force in one direction, unbalanced force will be acting and the car may move. Okay, so that is what is meant by Newton's first law of motion. So we have to exert an external unbalanced force to make a body move. So I told you this Newton's first law of motion gives us the definition of force. So how do we define force now? Can anyone think in mind what is the definition of force? I started by saying force is a push or a pull, right? But what is force now? Now we are learning in a little bit higher level, right? So force is a physical cause which changes the state of rest or uniform motion of an object. Because as per first law of motion, without applying an external force, unbalanced force, the object will not move. So we can frame the definition of force as it is the physical cause which changes the state of rest or uniform motion of an object in a straight line. Okay, so that is Newton's first law of motion. You may see this as Galileo's law of inertia, because Galileo explained the concept of inertia. And in the case of inertia, there is one more point. If the object is having more mass, then there is more inertia. Okay, so that's all for today's session. And in the coming class, I'll be discussing about momentum and Newton's second and third laws of motion. Second law, we are going to derive the equation for force, and third law of motion, the action react, we'll be talking about the action reaction pairs. Load of real life examples will come there. Okay, so let's enjoy and learn the laws of motion. So if you are watching this channel for the first time, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon for more updates. When I upload the new sessions, you will get the update immediately. Okay, so read the textbook, learn the concept. If you have any doubts, put the comment in the chat box. And thank you for watching. See you soon with the next topic. Bye.